Hello, good people. Welcome to the Small But Massive podcast. This is a short series of 6 podcasts capturing voices from the Sperrins. My guests were Anne McAllister, Ollie McGuigan, Hugh McKenna, Paddy Gray, Laurence O'Keefe and Damien Hearn. All well-known people in the local community. These people were involved in music, dance, filmmaking, the arts and business. All things that Glasgowbury is doing now in the Corn Store Creative Hub. So check it out, good people. Thanks to the Department of Communities, Arts, Culture and Heritage Fund for supporting the making of this series. Welcome to Small But Massive Podcast. Today I have Laurence O'Keefe, local businessman, entrepreneur, community champion, part-time comedian. I should say to people listening, you love the crack, Laurence, and not the drug crack, but the Irish laughter crack, just to make it sure, because you are a pharmacist and this isn't Breaking Bad, so we're just going to take it off. Laurence, you were the youngest of 10, a family of 10. Had that got any perks when you were growing up, being a family of 10? You can mention all the people if you want, but some people that come in here with big families, they don't tend to remember everybody in it.
No. Luckily, I can remember all 10 of us that were still alive.
Brilliant.
The rest of them, as you can see by looking at me, probably don't look too good, but they are standing on the planet at this stage.
There's no Zimmer frames yet, but they're all still strong enough.
All moving along. Very, very fortunate that way, to be fair. There was 10 of us, I was the youngest. I think when all the names were nearly used in the O'Keefe clan by the time I came along, and I think they drew my name out of a hat. I could have been Archibald or anything.
Was there a postman called Laurence, do you think?
I'm not sure who was about at that time. I think it was John Higgerty when we were growing up was our postman, to be fair. The postman was a very important man at that time. Yeah. You were glad to see him.
Yeah, there was nobody else. So in your early days, was it right that your family was born in Mallinvillas?
Well, there was they started off, my father and mother's both from Munina, so then they moved into Mallinvillas. They were actually lived down in Clone Road direction, not below Munina Chapel area, that 5 miles straight for a while, and then moved into Mallinvillas, close to where your mother is right. And we have they 2 or 3 were born there, and then 1955 we moved out to Derrynoid, or Mulnavoo Road is the new modern term, but Derrynoid we always call it.
So just when you mentioned Mallinvillas, it must be a place that has got that entrepreneurial spark, because you're yourself and John Donnelly, 2 very successful dudes that came out of the one area, and the 4Ds, you know.
I know the Donnellys are amazing what they've achieved, and John's some character as well. But no, I've no affinity with Mallinvillas. My growing up, when I was born in Derrynoid, I'm very much a Munina man in my head. So I've actually no connection to Mallinvillas in my own head.
So there you go. We'll move that entrepreneurialism to Munina. Brilliant. And because you mentioned there, my mum there, I know there's a great connection with my mother, Bernadette, and your own family. She's the godmother of Father David.
I don't know. She was only probably 13, your mother, I think, whenever she stood for Father David at that time. I suppose there was quite a lot of family, so there was different standings, as we called them. We used to have them all recorded in the Bible. That'd just be one of our quizzes when we were growing up, was who stood for who. So I didn't know who Bernie Glasgow was until I was down in our Bible as Bernie Cusker. So
there you go.
So I didn't know her until she started looking after my kids. So
there you go, and I remember that too, Laurence. And the thing was that I remember my mum saying that one time she says, I'm going to a do. I says, where's it at, ma? She says, it's in St. Columns. I says, what's it for? She says, Father David's ordination, there's a big gathering. Right. Yeah. And she says, I said, so what are you just going up because you know Laurence? No, apparently I'm the godmother. I can't remember much about it. So she was able to sort of come and get them back. So growing up in Mullinina, Laurence, what was it like in them times, you know?
I tell my kids this, and they actually think that I lived in some other... I always think myself, I'm a young man. I'm not, obviously I'm 60 now, but it was only in the 1960s, and we lived in a house in Derrynoid where there was no inside water, so you had a well outside. There was an outside toilet, which again was an unusual thing. You had a bucket and you carried it across the field. That was your reward.
And it was quite common in the areas.
But so we had no electricity, so we had initially tilly lamps and gas. And then it doesn't. And when you think about it, it's only 55 years ago. Yeah. But a lot of Derrynoid at that time, until electric came along, was like that. So we lived very primitive.
What was the neighbours then at that time?
Neighbours I suppose the older neighbours were, as we would call them, were the Bruntons, the Conyers, which was a family of 6 brothers and sisters. None of them ever married. They were interesting people to go and visit when I was young. Sarah Sargent and the Sargents. Sarah was about 4'6", and her brother Willie was 6'4". Again, neighbours strange. So and then there's the McEldowneys, the Bradleys moved in, but the old day now it was the McGurks. There was a group of families, and they're still there now. Thankfully,
a stable group of families.
And they supported each other. They'd be a close knit group. And if you needed to borrow something, you went and got it.
And that was that rural connectability. Do you think at that time?
I think it was just everybody had nothing, Paddy, and we lived a fairly simple enough life.
Yeah,
good crack, mostly to be fair. Apart from freezing to death and laying in the bed with a lot of blankets.
Well, the nights you just come home and just jumped on. I know that feeling myself.
I know. It was nights when I was young. I was the youngest. One of the advantages of being the youngest was after my mother died that I was slept in with my father because he had a very warm bed. He had a big black coat on top of the bed. He kept the air very warm. It was very airtight, which sometimes wasn't perfect, but it was. But it was an experience. There was a hot press in that room too, so that was definitely.
Oh, the double. That was like a sauna now, isn't it? A sauna and a jacuzzi. People just get used to these things now, Laurence. It
was really amazing because you didn't have a telephone. There was no phones in the house. There was no electric in the house.
And what about like the cars and stuff? Did you have a car about the house?
We didn't have a car until 1968 or so. Mickey Joe got a Viva from somewhere. We used to push it up the street and then down the hill to get it started. So it was a quality model.
You were getting fit as you were getting in the car.
There was an odd time. I think there was a couple of accidents where those pups went under the wheels, but at that time dogs weren't treated with such respect either.
No. Nowadays you done that. There'd be insurance clearance.
RSPCA would be on the door.
Brilliant. And so when you were growing up, like what? So primary school, did you go to Mullinina or did you?
No, we all went to Draperstown Primary. No, I loved it there. Now, to be fair, there was some great teachers. I'm not just saying that now, but Mrs. McKiernan and Mrs. Reagan, Mrs. O'Neill and Mrs. McGuigan, they were all very kind.
And did any of them sort of spark you at a young age,
I think because I was in P5, 6 and 7, Miss McKiernan had me for 3 years. She was probably the greatest influence on me, and even in poetry, believe it or not, because she was reading Seamus Heaney at that time. Heaney's poems were just out, and my English is not that strong. It wasn't the area I went into, but it's always given me a love for at least reading or reading and all thing. Even the Racing Post, at least I'm reading. but no, she was a lovely woman and just so supportive and so caring and wanting you to be well and telling you how wonderful you were all the time. Even when you met her in later years, you're a darling boy. She always called everybody to like the darling boy.
And that's a good thing because that, I suppose, even in primary school, because I was talking to Anne McAllister about it for myself, and sometimes it's only when you get a bit older and you look back and somebody says to you, well, did that person inspire you? Did that? And it's good to acknowledge, I think, that people that would have done that along your line, because that's all the blocks, Laurence, that probably got you to where you are now, isn't it?
They're encouraging more than inspiring. They were more about encouraging, making you feel valued. You weren't that stupid.
I was outside the door a lot. You weren't.
Oh no, my days at school were usually spent. Unfortunately, I clashed a lot with teachers as well because I was always the town clown the class clown. I'm now the town clown.
I know how that feeling, but you used humour to get you by, and that's fine. You know what I mean? And it's a good thing. So the likes of in your family, like I read about your oldest brother, Mickey Joe. You had a chat one time about what you're going to study and what you're going to do. And at that time, for people, I suppose, do you want to explain a bit about that?
I suppose our family was, because you've alluded to earlier, the 10 children. We had the usual Catholic family growing up of teachers and nurses, and then sort of Danny broke the mould. He went to radiography. Other than that, it was all. And then we had the obligatory priest, which you had to have with 10. So the mould was broke with Danny going to radiography, and then Patsy. He didn't go into the teaching either. So then I was doing my A-levels Mahara. I was actually deputy head boy. I was in charge of the school shop. I was chairman of the school council. I was Father Divine's main boy for.
You were totally involved in it.
Aye, but I was doing no work at the same time. I was having good fun, and I was walking around the corridors, and the teachers were.
Did you get the wee badge?
Oh, I had lots of badges. So I ended up repeating my A-levels at the convent. So I was the first boy going to upper sixth at the convent in Marafelt. So that was a really strange experience.
Wow.
So you had 75 girls or so in upper sixth, and me, and actually it was my sister Mary, who was a lab assistant over there, got me to go in there, and Mickey Joe, who was teaching A-level chemistry, nearly died when he found out I was coming into his class. So initial reaction was, "What the hell are you doing here?" But then I was going to do teaching, and he knew that I wouldn't stick to that, so he said, "Look, why don't you try pharmacy or do something that is a career?" And I was just a pure fluke, Paddy. I just drifted into that, and it wasn't a plan.
And so in many years, like you were, I looked up to you. I was in one of your other interviews about your business. At 14, you walked into the town, so you walked in, and the intention was to buy perfume for your favourite sister, obviously, because you didn't say sisters in the interview.
No,
so
it actually, to be fair, it probably was her Bridge, who wasn't my favourite, but she was the scariest one at that time. She hasn't changed.
Well, Bridge is very creative too. She could burst out a song. Her and Mickey, like.
Oh no, she's creative. But she was teaching me in primary that earlier years. Yeah. So she took over the motherly role, or certainly the financing role within the house after my mother died. But so no, I was going to Phil McGarry's shop in the town. That was Phil McGarry's and Paddy. The town, when you walked into the Christmas at that time, particularly we walked everywhere. You got to realise there wasn't that many cars. So when you walked into the town and you had a walk around, you particularly Christmas Eve, and it was, for me at that time, it was nearly like walking into Royal Avenue in Belfast.
Because the buzz was there.
There was lights there.
The buzz.
And there was so not the McGarry's. I think it was an A&A I went to buy, but I didn't have enough money. Luckily for Phil, I didn't steal it, because I used a bad habit of doing the wrong thing.
Well, we'll get to that Phil after, because it all changes down the line.
I wanted to buy something for. I suppose the reason I told that story was that I wanted to provide for people that I cared for. So I wanted a career that would make money, or be able to do the things that we financially we were awful. You could say we were happy. Everybody says that, but we had a tough enough time,
because they were tough times, and I suppose looking back at them times too, Laurence, there was jobs that I suppose, being from an area like this, people couldn't even get. That's all changed now, where people can get access to all jobs. But back then, as you know, probably there was only certain things going on, and even them things, if you weren't into them, then you were beat, like, sort of thing. You know what I mean?
No, it's our family was all reared and brought up on emigration. That's what happened within the O'Kanes of the generation before, and most of them went away to America at that time, and then Mary went to Australia as the oldest girl at that time in our house. I spent more times at International Airport in Aldergrove waving goodbye to family. And I think that put a mark on me to say, look, if we are going to, I never was ever going to go away. I love here.
You like being here.
I love here.
And you become influential being here, which is a good thing too.
Well, some people might say that, but it's just I love Munyin, I love Draperstown, I love Ballinscreen, I love the area. And my son Michael's a fisherman, and he taught me to love it, actually.
There you go.
He just, when I was 5th year, so he used me and him used to walk up the mountain and look around. And then I'm getting emotional.
I know that's all right. No, it's fine. And did you when you were what you're talking about there is that connection to your land and your homeland and your people, I mean, because like. You mentioned Mary there, who I know Mary well. Had been up round my mum's, and the mighty John Collins used to call him John, and who you could see beside you, and then he was behind the chair, and then he was in the kitchen, and he was always going.
He was one of a few mad nephews.
Well, I loved him anyway. I loved his wee chap, and so that brought you back to the homeland, the family, to where you are. So then. You're okay to move on, yeah. So you then you went to university. You got your got through the thing.
Got through the A-levels.
What was university like for you? Was it like a
university? Was just one party, but from beginning to end.
Coming from Mullinina, right, Derry, Clone, whatever. a small sheltered rural hamlet, and to what was a city, and all them different people, all them different, I suppose, cultures at the time too, and different areas. How did that all feel? Was it just one big party? Was it big bro again says you need to get this exam done?
I think ultimately, Paddy, when it was during my school years in secondary school particularly, I was socialising as much as I could get away with at that time, and I was very friendly. And to be fair, I was popular probably within the class. It was, I think it was some of the family found something that the classmates had written about me, and when I was about 16, which I hadn't been aware of. But so I was always socialised. I was always out. I always wanted to party. So you went to Belfast to just give you a bigger area to party, and then it just meant you didn't party on a Friday and a Saturday. There was Mondays and Wednesdays as well. So it was more of that, and I had a couple of good friends, Damien McGrugan, that you just went out with, and it was always just nonsense and talking rubbish to each other.
And you and Damien were very close.
He's a great fella.
Yeah, and what we should say is, God rest him, he's not with us anymore, but he was a top friend of yours. And but so then, Laurence, once you came out of university, you got your stripes, as the saying goes. I wanted to ask, just at that time, did you go on any work experience with anybody, or was it?
It was a strange one, Paddy, because at that time pharmacy rules were changing around opening chemist shops in Northern Ireland, and so this restricted opening was happening. So therefore, if you didn't open around that time, then you were going to have to buy another person's shop. So I knew I was never going to have the money to do that. So I had to act fairly quickly. Initially, tried to open in the Draperstown, and Paddy Hearn, he offered me a job, so I went and worked for Paddy for a year, and then
because that's what I was thinking, and because I was thinking you just didn't pop up and appear because you were in one of them for a while. I qualified, did my pre-reg, finished in 85, and then 86 I was open. 3rd of September I was open in 86. So I was just about a year or so before. So you, like, what age were you then?
26.
26, and you went on essentially to two businessmen who had been there for a long time,
long established,
and the two men in question was Phil McGarty and Paddy Hearn, of Hearn Bars, and so you took them both over. Was that a big undertaking at that time, being 26 years of age? It must have been for yourself.
It was huge, Paddy. In reality, looking back, I didn't pass any remarks on when I was doing it, and probably that's why I've been fairly lucky in my life that way, because it didn't really worry me, or didn't.
You didn't think about it.
No, I wasn't. I didn't have a long-term strategy. I didn't have a long-term view. People talk about this, and particularly other entrepreneurs I've met on my journey, and I didn't have that. All I had was a real work ethic and a desire to make that work, because I wanted it to work. I was in my own community, and I wanted to make it do it, and I wanted to do it right. And in the earlier years, particularly when I was in the shop myself, I did do it right. I was there morning and night.
You were there, always there. And had you at that time, because I should say to the people out there, I always bricked your ear over the years when I was doing everything, and you've been kind to me in that way for knowledge and all. Is there anybody at that time, like mentors or other sort of people that you would have spoke to and says, look, here, I'm trying, I know it's a different, they'd be working in different worlds, but sometimes there might be a solution to something that you maybe weren't,
very little, Paddy, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I wasn't an overly confident person, but I was confident in what I was doing within what I was attempting to achieve within my retail pharmacy. I knew the people that were dealing with me. I had a big interest in veterinary and stuff, and it actually got me into a bit of trouble because somebody alleged that I sold veterinary products without a prescription, which I'm sure was completely unfounded.
I would just say out here now, that was totally unfounded. There was no truth in it whatsoever. That poodle dog did not get shampoo from Laurence's.
No.
With paracetamol in it.
But I was working in my own town with the people that I cared about and liked and enjoyed to working with, and I knew the families, and you're working with GPs who wanted to try and help and do the best in small.
And your early days would have been the likes of Dr. Cyril Harkin, Dr. Frank.
Yep.
And was Dr. Mary still?
Dr. Mary had gone at that stage. Dr. Frank was there.
And the deadly Dr. Bailey.
Dr. Bailey and Dr. Walsh. That was the four at that time. Dr. Walsh was sort of the very younger, more prim and proper. Dr. Bailey, as anybody known, was mad as toast, but what a nice man.
I loved him.
One of our best GP we've had for a long time. He didn't care anything for this world, to be fair to the man. And he wasn't driven by money or whatever. And he was deadly crack. Some of the stories of him are true, and they're funny. Like.
He has to come crack. I went down one time, and one of the times I didn't wear a hurling helmet, Laurence. I got split. Right. So I landed down, and he says, right, what's going on? And he's jumping all around. Come on, wait, come on, sit, quick, sit. And I sat down, and he goes, you're right. And I was going, I'm good. And I was actually doing it myself, because I thought I was going to end up with a big monk thing, right? Because the head was split. So he got one bit of hair, Laurence, and he says, look, every time you feel a wee tug, that's a stitch. I goes, all right, go on ahead, Dr. Billy. And I was standing, and I could hear the scissors going. Then I could see 1, 2. I counted 24, Laurence, and he says, your mates won't recognise you now, because you've got a bit of a punk rock, a bit of a ball bat down the back end. And I says, oh no. So I went home, and literally, Laurence, I had 4 stitches. There was no hair gone at all. He had held the hair up like that. He'd done this over just to annoy me.
Just to make sure that you would think he was a gem, to be fair. While sad, he died so young, but he was
a good doctor.
Yeah, I remember there was a particular guy in the town. He had a heart condition, that very, very, very unusual heart condition, and he was in talking to me, this guy, and he died a year after, and he explained it to me, and I said, never heard tell of it. And I had to ring John Bailey after about that patient. And I said to him, oh, have you heard of such and such? And off the top of his head, he gave me a full rundown on the phone as to what it was, what way it worked.
There you go.
Like a man was a genius. But then at that time, the biggest problem I had was there was no prescriptions were all handwritten. So Dr. Frank, he scrawled with big, long, ugly writing like my own. Cyril Harkin, he wrote a wee squiggly thing you wouldn't know what it was. John Bailey, I'll tell you a story about John Bailey. John Bailey actually, he just wrote everything on the prescription, so you wouldn't know what happened. There was a guy took Adrian Glasgow came as Mahara, and the fella landed in with a prescription for his daughter, and he couldn't make head nor tail of it. So he rang John Bailey, and he told me the story. John Bailey told me the story. Let me see what's his name of the patient. So he starts looking about, looking for the sheet of paper he had written on. But what he'd taken down one was the directions to a house outside Braccarelli. So it's a very unusual drug. It hasn't been prescribed in the world yet.
Take 3 trips a day to Braccarelli. You'll be grand.
So that's what he'd given the wrong prescription. He had the prescription for the amoxicillin or the ampicillin at that time. Amphipen he wrote all the time. But no, they were very hard to decipher. That was my biggest worry about killing somebody that I knew.
Maybe that's what that sort of whole vet thing. They read it up.
That was easier with the vet thing.
So you were in there, and the 2 chemists, Laurence, and then
no, just at the one chemist that time, because Phil McGarty was up the street. Phil was a lovely man. I was always very gentle and had a great long established business. He decided to sell in '89. And then I phoned Paddy here and to see would we buy it together, because I thought it'd be a good idea, but Paddy didn't think it was a good idea. He expressed a view that he didn't particularly like me at the time. No.
Well, I suppose you were a young businessman on the way up, and I suppose in a way, no, I don't want to use the word like competition, but in a way, maybe
it was just pure business. It wasn't that he didn't like me. I know from talking to him after, it wasn't that. It was just he was trying to protect his business, which we all do.
I know, and so when you were in, you took the 2 businesses over, and you done that for a while, and I suppose, as you said there, friend, you were always there. You were always there, and I suppose at that time, would it be all right to say you're a man who likes new challenges all the time?
Probably,
so that time there was an opportunity. You were approached for it was about going back to your early one about your sister Breeds, about the perfume. It was like a perfume distribution opportunity, and so you took that on. And how did that all come about? Because I know you had a wee room. I remember going to see you one time, and I think I'm going to guess here, Michelle, Trainer, Christine, and Rose. Is that right?
They were about
and they were
I suppose. Whenever 87 or 88, I got bored and I decided to open a toy shop at the back, of the pharmacy, which was I did that for about 10 or 12 years. That was hard going because we opened Christmas morning and everything, just because it was easier to sort out toys in the morning, so parents weren't let down or children weren't let down. But so we I did that for a while, and then the opportunity in terms of the perfume came about. There's a fella called Ryan, he was a sales rep, lovely fella, Francis McGrew, and he's working for a company called Causeway Wholesale, and he landed to me after Christmas. At that time, the fragrances in the pharmacy were it wasn't that many. You're in A&A,
a few tons and sprays.
You had some. There wasn't much of a men's section, or it was mostly 30 or 40 key lines. and they were mostly brought into Northern Ireland through UK. So this fellow was selling into me, and he landed into me in February. He says, "Look, Laurence, I'm giving it up. I can't run it. I don't know how to run it." But I knew he was a good salesman. He was one of the nicest fellows God ever put on the planet. So I said, "Come up and we'll have a chat." And so we had a chat, and I said, "Right, I'll set up a new company, pharmacy supplies. You'll work for me. You'll get a salary, and you get a bonus out of it." And we worked like that for 4 or 5 years. Unfortunately, he got a thinking brain tumour and died. Francis did. But so that was the start of Pharmacy Supplies, and I just had it upstairs where the flat where I used to live above the chemist shop, and I had Max Factor and Elizabeth Arden and some fragrance, and that's where it started from, 92. And then Damien McGrugan, who you talked about earlier, he wrote me a computer program for it, a stock control program, because he was, as he called them, computers. he was very good in computers.
That sounds like a bop, doesn't it?
he always claimed that he was not very intelligent, but I think maybe he was clever.
More clever than he thought.
Yeah. Jerry Bradley talks about the men around this town who hide their intelligence well.
And he was one of them. And so going from that there, from Pharmacy Supplies, I suppose you've chatted to people. There'll be people out here listening, maybe not from the area, Laurence. Yeah. And so how did that all grow for you, and what was your sort of timeline and your vision on it?
I suppose we ended up, we took a small unit over in Workspace, or unit 4 and 5 of the old units, and we worked from there for a few years, and it started to grow. The initial turnover was in around like 400,000 a year. Then it grew to 2 or 3 million or so, but was never getting any bigger. So then I bought a bit of ground at the bottom of Workspace area that they weren't using. So then we built a warehouse there, and that sort of kicked it off from there. So it was like, I suppose it's gone on that fast that I forget. I suppose nearly 30 years in the making now. But Pharmacy Supplies now is distributing to one of the main distributors in Ireland, to front of shop pharmacy.
Because I read somewhere about 1,600 pharmacies.
Aye, we deliver to about 1,600 in Northern Ireland as well, and then we do some to Scotland. But we've got some really good distributions. Then we started doing our own brands. But it's about a 20 million turnover business, employs about 80, 90 people.
That's amazing.
Most of it in the Draperstown
area. I know that you're great, and see something to get to that level, Laurence. Do you sort of, like you mentioned earlier on, your friend Francis about being a great salesman, God rest him. And so, do you look out then and go, right, I need this person to do this? Because no matter how much you know, there's always that, that drive from someone else to push something. Did you get a good team from then, and they're still with you, sort of thing?
One thing I've been lucky with, Paddy, or maybe it's more than luck to be fair, is you recognise what you can't do. If you can't do it, you need somebody who can do it.
A solution.
But a lot of people are better at things than you are. And I'm reasonably good at some stuff, but I've absolutely no ability around marketing or sales or that or accountancy. So you bring in the people you need, and you trust them. You get the right people first of all. Yeah. You trust them, and you let them get on with it.
Yeah.
And
is that a big responsibility in a company like it's turning £20 million? Is it, do you wake up in the morning and go, have to keep an eye on this, or do you just go, right, I know it's flowing all right, unless something drastic pops up that everything's okay, sort of?
You get an odd crisis day where something goes wrong, or something where you have to act and get on with it, but I absolutely never worry about it. But I've never have, and that's why I've taken the right attitude. I probably, now as I'm getting older, I probably will more, and that's something that probably anybody getting older understands and goes, oh God, I don't want that responsibility anymore. But it's at a level now where I've had to trust people, and it's gone that way. I mean, and as you probably know, that I made healthcare then as the other company.
Yeah. So well, just going back to Pharmacy Supplies, I would say that you mentioned earlier on about there wasn't a lot of male perfumes in, but I just give you credit because I think you are the man that has made Ireland, male and female, smell beautiful again. Because you are, like, I don't know if you ever think about that. Like, you could be down there, say, I know that you love horses, and we'll talk about that. But you could be down there and, that's one of mine. You're just snuffing there.
To be honest, I haven't bought any of my own products, and I don't take any tablets, so I'm probably not a great advertisement for it. To be fair with the camera, I won't lie on that one.
No, and so just thought I would say it. And then going on, Laurence, to IMED. So On one side, you recognised that Ireland needed to smell better, and the other side, you recognised that Ireland needed to get healthier, and that you started iMed, a company. Do you want to explain a bit about that and when that started?
That was. I suppose what the one thing I have learned, rather than worrying about the rest of Ireland, is I've learned that if you stick to an area you understand and know, so as long as it's related to medicines or pharmacy, diversifying from that is where I haven't gone right. But on the iMed Healthcare came about 2007 with Paul Murphy. We set that up. It was just about bringing in. Basically, it's called parallel importation, but it's bringing in medicines from Europe and relicensing them. So we'd have about 400 or 500 products that we relicense for Ireland and the UK now, and then we relabel them. We have a manufacturing plant in Draperstown here, small manufacturing plant, but it's
small but massive. It is
small
Laurence.
but massive. So it definitely is. It is quite. It's getting bigger.
It is massive. You're understating it there, man. Because you started in one part, you built again, then you built again, then you built again.
Well, we're anybody knows Draperstown. It's where Morris Taylor made a lot of money in his time with potatoes years ago. It's a really interesting way it's worked around. And what really interests me about it is my father worked there. He'd been taken off the dole years ago to go in to pick potatoes in the very shade that I've turned into a medicine factory.
That's a remarkable story, isn't it? No, that's remarkable.
I know, it makes me smile every time I think about it. So.
You could be looking down there and instead of seeing a tablet, seeing an old Dale Spud going across your conveyor belt.
I would say, and knowing some of the characters who would have worked with my father at that time, they might have been working at the same rate I would have been required. But they would have been a bit more chilled.
I know. But I suppose them times. But that's a remarkable story, because one thing that area has always been, Laurence, has been industrial, if you know what I mean, and profitable. I mean, you talked there about the spuds, and then you had the shirt factories.
Yep. Oh, the shirt. John Burns. At that. Sorry, I'm jumping into something here, but just because you brought up the shirt factory, John Burns was like, you talk about characters of Draperstown that influenced me. He's the man. Like
there you are.
He's what a character.
There you are.
And he loved stories, and he loved winding people up. And he spent all of his life doing it.
He was good at it. Then.
And he handed me the mantle when he passed on. There was one particular time he took a real hand in me in Mark McKenna's bar years ago. It was good. I can't remember what exactly he done to me, but most of the bar thought it was quite funny. But the following 2 weeks later, he normally got a lift up with Pat Gormley was leaving, but he decided to stay on. There was a sing song. Mickey Lawless was in full steam, and John said stay on, and David Lawless landed on. Who you'll know, David landed on, and. I says, David, you're on John up. He says, where's he live, uncle? David, even that always called me uncle. He says he's up in. I says he thinks he lives in that big house opposite the Fold, but he's actually in the Fold and take no nonsense. So John at that time was on the stick, but David Lawless dropped him off in the Fold and drove off while John was waving the stick at him going up the hill. But he told everybody about it himself. He thought it was very funny.
David would be thinking he was waving bye-bye, thanking him.
David assured me that he left him in the right place. That's all I needed to know.
That's brilliant, Lord. But just showing you that that Draperstown Ballinasgreen is a very entrepreneurial town.
It is. That's amazing.
And that area there is very entrepreneurial. And you've got yourself, and you've EDS, and you've all the different companies there, and Clone, and all the different boys, Corrymore, and all the different ones that are there in that unit. And it's credit to you and all. And Sperrin Bakery, another veteran one.
Sperrin Bakery, amazing. They've kept going, Eddie, and has done a great job there for years. But I suppose that. If you go back a wee bit, Paddy, in terms of the entrepreneurial thing, it's right across Ballinasgreen. I took one of the fellows who works for me from Limavady a drive one day, and he was just blown away by going, holy shit, you've got up here, you've got Sperrin Metal, Yardmaster, you've Hearns, like massive operation, you've got H&A, you drive out to Poor You, and you go, gosh, and
a great achievement.
Oh, unbelievable. So we can be very proud of all that, but there's loads more, There's loads of smaller ones, and
they're starting off, and they're getting there.
You look at that lad with bounce-abouts, and
innovative stuff.
Innovative stuff. People looking at the opportunity and going, okay, we'll do it. We'll give it a go.
One road out, and that's it.
So it used to be where the bus turned, now the bus goes on through to Oma. That's always been a good sign. You see Pat McGlade on the Sperrin Rambler there.
It's a big time now. We're actually now
an axis.
That's brilliant.
But you can see it even over the last year, Paddy, in terms of the number of people. that are coming to the mountains to walk and to Dava, and there has been a change in the last year.
Well, I think that what's happening in the area, friend, is like, and you've some great places, like you've got the Dark Skies now, the Shepherd's Rest up there, and you've got these pods, and we spoke about years ago. I spoke to you, and I've probably done your head in about the big thing then was international visitors for NI tourism, and I kept saying, people locally, try get local people from the country to come into different areas, like, and now staycation's the coolest thing in the world.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, so I suppose it's good for the area, it's good. And what you said there about the other businesses, maybe down the line I'll get some of them in to tell their story too, Lauren. It all depends, No,
but it's just, and I suppose I'm involved in workspaces, but that entrepreneurial spirit has been driven, and you see it, you have a lot of electric. Look, Niall McGuigan and that business out the road. You've got things sprouting up everywhere. And it's great. We're unfortunately lacking a bit for industrial land here, and we lost a few really good people like Block Blinds and that. But we still have that. We have something.
Well, there's enough space, as what you're saying, Laurence, to incubate, to grow, and if you just have to go clean out of that, then move them. But at least for that stage, grow where you are in your own parish, your own town, employ local people like you do, and it's a brilliant thing.
Well, I mean, the 4Ds moved to Marfell as well, who you mentioned earlier. They would love to have stayed locally, and I know that from talking to them, but they still brought so much to the community by what they've done, and a lot of staff that work down there with them.
Do you think that'll change, Laurence, down the line, the likes of that? Or will it always be the case that the big town one's over because they have to look as if they're the most industrialist?
I think in Draperstown, the key thing that needs to happen in the next 4 or 5 years is there needs to be more identified land for industrial growth. So to allow people like me to build a factory or build and I never got that when I was younger. I didn't understand it in reality to grow the size. But how big do we want to be? That's the challenge as well. But the one thing that's very attractive here is for people coming to work in here that's a big change. Sorry, I'm jumping again, but the big change is you used to drive over the mountains, any part going out of Draperstown. The cars were going out of Draperstown every morning. Now the cars are coming in. They are coming in. You come on any of those, the Omer Road. Or
that's a good sign, isn't it?
There's people are coming here to work. And when they come here to work, they come here to build houses. They're coming here to
spend.
Live, but they're coming here to live. And the schools, we've probably got the best schools in Northern Ireland as a group.
Yeah, and they all seem to have a good cameraderie with each other.
Well, the good thing about them is they're friends, but they're challenging each other. They're not. They're looking for the same. It's a bit like me and the Paddy Hearn looking for the same customer. They're looking for the same customer. So having that challenge makes them all stronger. They're all very good, and the secondary school's tremendous.
And it means that you're not sitting on your laurels thinking, I got this amount last year. They keep going and keep going. And I know we do a lot of outreach work around all the schools, and you're totally right in that there. The teachers are passionate, their heads are passionate, and the areas are passionate about their kids living in it. And as you probably know better than any, Laurence, going back again for myself, you sitting in the chemist all them years ago, knowing people now that have families growing up, that their families are moving in, they're getting jobs here, they're staying here, and it's a brilliant thing. Come back earlier on, would you say to our friend about having to emigrate all the time? Do you know what I mean?
If you look at what happened, and people will want to emigrate and broaden their horizons, and people, but that's fine if people want to do it as choice. But being driven out is a different matter. Now, I have some staff working with an IMED there that are pharmacists, and they're doing, fairly senior roles that wouldn't have been available in this community.
There you go.
So and the Hearns have that type of role too, and Sperrins Metal and all the. So there's a whole lot of high specialist roles too.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting time to be living in Draperstown. It is.
No, that's good. And I should say to people out there listening that from even I was growing up and I've known you a long time. You've got the sports hall now, you've got the Scouts, you've got the GA, you've got the Draperstown Celtics going brilliant, you've got the youth club, you've got ourselves. There's a lot of good, and you've got early years and after schools, all these things, Laurence, that maybe years ago people couldn't go out to work because they had to look after their kids. Now have an opportunity to go out to work, and there's places they can leave their kids.
Paddy, the opportunities, like when we were growing up in down in Patsy, you didn't have a football pitch you go and train on. I played underage Gaelic. God rest Seamus Gregan was a great man. He would have drove you around the country. But a true story, me and Jim Donnelly, and Jim, a lot of people I mentioned in the stories are dead, unfortunately. Jim was a cousin of mine, but me and Jim Donnelly and Pat Donnelly walked to Bannerhurst Dam from Donnelly's house in the morning to look for 2 or 3 sheep that it would stray before they had to be clipped. So, and from Donnelly's to Banner-Dam's a long way.
That's
up,
a long walk.
And then we come back down. Aunt Bridget, God rest, would make us beans and bacon and soda bread. It was great stuff. And then
you'll go for that after. That's what I'd say.
Me and Jim Donnelly would walk to the park. This is true. 15 years of age, walk to Ballinascreen Park. That's from Donnelly's and Top Munina.
That's a far walk.
Jim Donnelly, I would be a sub, so I wouldn't be playing, but maybe if to train. And Jim would play the match, and that thankfully Seamus Gregan would run us home. Our penance was having to listen to a lot of rebel songs on the way up the road.
You remember that? Oh, we'll not sing it.
No, not sing. But Seamus taught me a lot of rebel songs and his big 8-track in the car. But he was such a gentleman. Well, he's a lovely wee man. He was, I still talk to Jock about him yet, but he was a real gentleman. He looked after all of us lads as if
he was a guardian. He was a guardian.
He was, and there wasn't too many at that time would have done that.
But that old time at GA, they didn't mind putting 10 people in their helmet hunter and driving you around.
And that's the problem now. You couldn't do that.
No.
But you're saying exactly that, Paddy. What you have here in Glasgowbury, holy God! I mean, the amount of music that you're walking down I drive into town some Saturday mornings, and you're seeing people walking past you, not with hurley sticks, just and with footballs. They're going down with banjos and guitars strapped to their back. That's a massive thing. I talk about it to anybody outside of the town. It's a big thing that what you have brought to the town, and the Scouts are they're that far thinking they're going to redo St. Column's Hall.
I heard that for many years they were trying, Laurence. It's not a great lesson now.
Fantastic achievement for them, and that comes down to half a dozen people with real interest and real drive. The Scouts thing, if I go back to Munny Youth Club, you wouldn't remember. There used to be a Munny Youth Club up in the hall.
Didn't know that.
Father McGlinchey started it in the 1970s. My sister Anne and Martin Brunton were the founders. Actually, he sent them into Father Collins to see would he get it over the line. Father Collins, anybody knew, was a scary man. But
He was.
Going in and tell him you were going to start a youth club, he only on that floor. So he had some sort of question. I can't remember. Or David wrote it in a letter to me or a note to me one time. But he wanted to know who was basically going to be in charge. But once he found out who was going to be in charge, it went on. But Martin Brunton would, and his son was involved in the Scouts. So you have families there that have done a while out within community to develop those things over the years. And Munny Youth Club was the old hall. I actually drove up there on my 60th birthday because we used to.
That's the wee one at the junction.
At the junction, used to be concerts there. There would have been. There was bingo. There was, but that was a
just
massive,
at Pat Cassidy's. That wee hall.
No size. That was the old school. But that's where my father was at school. My grandfather and my great grandfather were.
No way.
Where they were the principals of the school. Well, the principals, probably 2 teachers. But
there you go.
But so actually, it holds a lot of. I hope they don't tumble it completely. Anyway, there's a history.
Would it not be listed?
I think there's a bit of it. Part of it's tin. But I went up. I was just laughing because the 10 of us would get up on the stage in 1970, like with my father, or 69, 70. My father and us 10 children would get up on the stage and sing like.
Well, what kind of songs?
We'd start off. We're going, me and Danny Plastigan first, and we'd go and singing "We're on the One Road." And
we're taking the long road. Are you popping away?
We'd do that first, and then we'd do a wee poem about Spot the dog, little dog under the wagon was called. We did that, and then I'd be the wee dog barking around. Then the crowd would laugh, and then that I thought I was a real star. But and then my father would sing. He used to sing a really funny song at that time. It was like a. Now then Basil is me name, with me orange sasha came. He'd sing it as if he was an orange man in the middle of one. I think he just did it for the crack. He obviously got his sense of humour. And it was up the border, keep the border. And it was just completely...
truly the opposite of what should have been sung at that time.
But he did it for the crack. And Mickey Joe would sing Rossi. Would sing. We actually won the Feis in 1970 when she moved through the fair, the 11 of us. So,
brilliant. A class song.
I don't think the opposition must have been that strong.
That's brilliant.
To be fair, it was the Higgities, because I just met one of the Higgities there now. That was a big scalp.
Well, it was a big scalp. That's like going to a World Cup and scalping Brazil, isn't it?
Oh, for us.
You scalped the Higgities.
You're better with Benny Higgities with all the music they had, and they were good. I digressed there, but
it's good. But that was a time that, obviously too, you sometimes never think about being up on stage like that. That would have made you part of who you were, and that confidence of being in front of people, Laurence, that you have, and the humour that you have too. So then we had I made with Farmers Supplies. And then we had Be Bold.
Aye, Be Bold. That was just it was a tan. Well, it's a girl, Louise Donaghy, actually developed that. Louise McCaver, who works along with us, and she's done a brilliant job on it. So it's doing really well. Obviously, last year girls weren't going out as much, and women weren't going out as much. They weren't tanned as much. So it's taken a bit of a backseat last year. But no, it's a tremendous story. It's grown. It's again, it employs an extra 10 people or so.
Brilliant.
So iMed on its own has a turnover of about 100 million.
Yeah.
It's 120 staff or so. So there's a lot.
That's a lot.
20 of them's in Dublin, but again, 2 or 3 of those are fellas from Daverstown who went down on my behalf and have done a great job.
Sir Lee Grugan.
Sir Lee.
Put a wee sir in front of it there because I know he'll love that.
Marty McGuigan as well.
Marty and
Lee are sort of running their operation in there, but they've. Well, Lee's still with a Daverstown woman, but Marty married a girl from Dublin, so we're responsible for that as well.
So you've weddings, births and certificates and pharmacies.
Birthdays and marriages.
And so the likes of running a business north and south, and with, I suppose, Laurence, the great Brexit that everybody decided to do. As a business man, what was your thinking when it was even talked about at the start, and what's your thinking now that it's actually happened, if that's all right to ask?
I suppose we because we had the 2 sites, we were always prepared for it. We invested for both sides just in case no matter what happened, you can't afford to go out of business, so we invested extra money. It cost us extra money to have the both sites running. There was a lot of planning, and then all of a sudden, no, it's not happening now. Planning not happening now. So we had a lot of days wasted and time wasted, but we had no option in order to protect jobs and that. But it's as it's turned out, the Northern Ireland Protocol is. I couldn't have written it any better myself.
Right, so and that's weird you saying that, because there's lots of people are on about it. I don't, as someone not on business level yourself, for people out there that don't understand what it is, the protocol, could you give it simply to them in a businessman's terms? That for me, I think it's something that, from what I hear, that has got benefits for us both coming from England and leaving from here and going to Europe. Now, that's just me, and I don't know much about it.
No, I think, Paddy, that sometimes the most simplistic view on things is the best. So that is, in simple terms, Northern Ireland has been given special status. Now there's some teething problems, and that's what there's a lot of shouting about. But the my long-term view on it, it's a really positive thing for the North. It's aligning us with Europe, and it's aligning us with the UK. So if you want to sell something to the UK, you can. There's a bit of issues and around stuff coming in, and from the UK into here, but that all can be sorted out over the next few months, and it will be sorted out. But it's given us the best of both worlds.
We've got the best of both worlds.
We have.
And so when people
recognise it,
people that are sitting there on, say, the opposite, we've got a fence here and I'm on the other side of the fence and I'm shouting over going, no, it's no good for me, or blah blah blah. Why are they shouting that if it's not the case? Why isn't government speaking to business leaders like yourself, that you've just said it so simply there, and seems to be no confusion in what you just explained? There's
some of the business people have issues around it as well, but the issues are all if they can be addressed. It's been politicised, Paddy. It's like everything in the north of Ireland. It's politicised.
Yeah.
It becomes green and orange, which is crap. Sorry for saying crap.
No, you're all right.
It's nonsense. It's not about that. It's about people's lives and people trying to live.
It's about well-being. It's about economic growth. It's about people bringing in jobs like your good self, and it's about people getting reasonable prices for what their products are.
Yeah. And I mean, there was a lot of shout there about sausages, and then all of a sudden Tesco come out and they say we're now buying all our sausages from Northern Ireland suppliers. Like, is that not a good thing? Should Tesco not be doing that anyway?
Start.
That would be my view on it.
And they say the sausages are the best in the world from here, and our 3 area here.
I know any time any of my sisters come home from Australia, the one thing they're looking for, well, I have to be careful how I say that. The one thing they love the Cookstown sausages and bacon
and the Fadge bread.
And Denny's, all their brands are also available.
But that's what you grew up on, and that's and I think what you explained it there was really, really good compared to just worrying about an old 6-pack of old beef, Hertfordshire sausages flying in.
I think there's small teething issues that need to be sorted out, but they can be. It's not for something to people. I think I see as a mini Hong Kong. That's the opportunity.
So there's for business. The message is that there's great opportunity. There's great opportunity for growth, and there's great opportunity for new roles. Maybe Laurence coming in.
I've yet to meet anybody in business in this community over the last 6 months that doesn't have the same line. I've never been busier.
That's
getting products in and getting steel and getting those sort of things and building. That's nothing to do with Brexit. That's the world we're living in. But maybe it compounds people's arguments around the Brexit and the protocol, but.
It's just commerce, isn't it, Laurence? It's just how it is.
The world has changed and things move and change. But in terms of the opportunity, it's increased the opportunity rather than decreased it.
There you go. That's a positive thing. And so, yet again, would maybe summarise that there with there's going to be some winners and there's going to be some people hurt a wee bit more, and then there's going to be some that will just.
I think most of all there will be winners. I don't see any. There's going to be difficulties in certain areas, and some access to products that are coming from UK need to be negotiated, and they will be negotiated. I'm fairly sure, but it should be winners, really. Honestly, that's my view on it. But then I always have an optimistic view.
I know, and I'm with you. I'm with you in that optimism too. So. I would say now to people out there that you're a great community man, and you've, even earlier on we were chatting there, you talked about so many different groups in the area that you're silently sort of speaking to and trying to help along. How important then as community to you? I know that the way you sounded earlier on, it's everything, the community. And I would bring in, how important is a community, and what's it like to be the workspace chairman and other a massive social enterprise community initiative company?
The community thing for me is a big thing now. I'm in a very privileged position, Paddy, where I'm reasonably successful, and I'm not saying that with blowing my own trumpet, but I'm at an age and a stage where I've seen and had met most challenges in terms of either business or community issues. So and I've learned from some of the masters like Patsy McShane, etc. Both on the positive and the negative. I think ultimately the chairman of Workspace is the Workspace board is voluntary board, so we have a very strong board of people with community and business background. So the Workspace model is, and we're not very good at marketing ourselves. People see Workspace and probably the name is a wee bit misleading, but what we do within Workspace really in simple terms is we have a few businesses that try to make money, and we take that money and we play it back into the community of Draperstown, Ballinascreen and the surrounding area. Yeah. We also act as an advocate with council, and we push for any. So if council or someone's looking to talk to somebody, or maybe just going off on a tangent, at least we have an input into them. We can't influence them fully, but at least we have a voice, and we're talking across a spectrum of people, both community and business. So, but it's. We don't sell ourselves very well, and I admit that, but we do a lot of good. And you've mentioned the 4G pitch of the school. We're now building a new youth club. Yourselves,
we're in this building here.
Avail of the property, but I mean, we put in money into something that people are really looking after the community and the different right across health and health and well-being and right arts. Supporting children, so with the after schools club where you mentioned after schools, you've got the preschool area. So that we've done an awful lot in the background. I mean, the council have not provided any sports facilities in Ballinascreen.
Well, people should know, Laurence, I don't know if I'm right here, that the first app I was talking, I think it was Michael Trollan,
right?
The time of buy a brick,
so.
He was saying that I think the first application was 1974 or something like that for the sports or some kind of.
Oh yes, I know. At that time with the council, in fact, what the parish did was that bit of ground belonged to the parish, and the parish gave it to the council in order for them to build the hall. and then the council very generously charged us £10,000 a year there for rent for a while. We built the whole of it. But now, to be fair to Marifeld Council, Anthony told that they resolved that recently, and we've got but there's we're a smaller town, and you're not going to get things given to you.
Yeah.
And people have to accept that you're further down the pecking order within priorities of large councils. But no, the workspace end has done really well. The school I'm involved was the Straw School, have been since my Waynes went there. Great school, built a new school up there myself, and Brian O'Kane. It's one of, actually, for all the things I've done in my life, it's one of the things that I'm most proud of. That I've managed to get that, to see.
Well, you can see it every day you drive by for your business or whatever you're doing.
It was 3 or 4 million of investment that was going to go missing if we hadn't managed to do it.
Amazing.
I know there was a hassle, and I know there was some issues arose within that, but there was never an intention to hurt or annoy anybody. But it was always just to make sure we provided the best facility for the Waynes, and it's there. I mean, I've worked a lot with St. Columns. That's with Russian. Well, she's done, and she's retired now. And what they've achieved is fantastic as well. And then you've got the youth club, as you say. You've got, when we looked at doing something with the rural college, which always comes up, we spoke to all community groups, and it's amazing the number of different groups that are doing so much good. Like Steps, as an example, as you know, Paddy, you work with them.
But I was just going to say, you're a great advocate of Steps in the work they do.
I mean, mental health's such a big issue now, particularly what we've all come through with COVID. What they do and the counselling service they provide, it's you know, and what Workspace do is now we prioritise those people who are going to make the biggest impact within the community, and we give them as much funding as we can avail. The more money we make out of the business, the more we can put into the community. It's a profit for purposes. So we have to get the mix right, even within our team.
Because you have people to employ as well.
And Workspace employs 170 people.
There you go. And I think that and that's amazing. And they have offices all over Monaghan, all around Donegal, all these different places, Laurence. And that's a positive thing. And I think that even Steps there, you know, the work Karen puts on, they're probably at a level now, Laurence, where they need to be sort of based, and nearly need to be an identity, if that makes sense.
Well, that's what we're working on at the minute, Paddy, within this new building.
Brilliant.
The hub, obviously, at the Royal College didn't work out, so we're redoing the library and that whole area for the what do you call it, the youth club. We're moving them more towards the school end, and we're building a building there that the school can use during the day and the youth club can use at night. And that front end will be an element there for Steps.
That's
so they have a base.
I think because they're growing, Laurence, you know that, and it takes a lot of work, and I think it's that stage to be maybe, you know, not saying professionalised, I don't want to use that word, but you know, that someone's there all the time, front of house, if you know what I mean.
Their standard of delivery is measured, and it's fantastic. So it's all there. They're ticking the right boxes on that side. It's actually giving them a base and giving them. Brilliant. You'll know yourself. Core funding is a big problem to survive as any type of delivery mechanism, and that they deliver,
and they deserve it. You know?
They deserve.
And I think sometimes, Laurence, a lot of them. What's wrong with sometimes with rural people? We plough on, but maybe the city people are far more. What's the word? I don't want to say more smarter, but they get more opportunity to sort of. Get these places right, if that makes sense. Get the core staff on and get them working.
I think the challenge I have in my own head, and I've spoke to Georgina, the Chief Executive of Workspace, is to try and now coordinate over the next 5 years some of the core stuff we've already got in place, but pull it more together so they're all bouncing off each other, and that we can make them all sustainable. Big challenge.
That's a good idea, like under a roof of some kind.
We're definitely going to look at that, Paddy. There's no doubt about it. We have an interest in doing that. But and I have an interest in it. It's one of my unfinished
chapters. But that's brilliant. And so there's now, what I'm going to talk about now is your love of horses.
All right.
And how did, you know, I know that... I don't know much, but I know you've got race horses and different things, and knowing this podcast is out, it'll be out after. I could give you all a big tip today at 1:45. I could name it for you, but by the time you get this, most people, Laurence, will be ringing up to the bookies down there. Here, I want to put a wee bet, such and such.
It'll be too late. Might be safer keeping the
keep your money there for now. Yeah. So tell me how that came about, Laurence.
I was just whenever we were growing up. The Irish News and the Daily Mirror were the two papers we had, so I took an interest in betting on horses, which I wouldn't recommend to anybody, but that's the way I went at that time. And we used to always an interest in horse. And then, but 1998 or around that, bought my first horse in Ireland, and it was clean useless.
Is that the name of it?
Well, it was that bad.
Imagine calling a horse clean useless and it won every race there was, Lord. I think there's a name in that.
No, I think Michael gives me different names to name them, but clean useless he hasn't got me yet. But so then I got friendly with David Byrne in England, and he was a man I trusted, and he did the buying of the horse, and so I always kept a horse or a racehorse. So it actually stops me gambling. It sounds like a strange thing to say, so I don't gamble much. I gamble now and again, have a bet, but then it means I can go to the race and have a day out.
And the likes of for the likes of you, Laurence, what races, like, are we talking down Royal, are we talking down the Curragh, or where?
I'm actually going to the Curragh tomorrow, which I'm really looking forward to. But no, John Burns told me years ago, he says, your ambition, if you're going to have a horse, Laurence, is to get it to run at the Curragh. So the day Hitchens won the Group 3 at the Curragh, he won the Group 3, which is a fairly high standard. I nearly cried, and the first one came in my head was John Burns.
That's brilliant.
True story. I had a great. I've won 4 races at the Curragh. Hopefully, after tomorrow it'll be 5.
Brilliant.
And I've actually, Hitchens was that good a horse. We ended up in Maidan out in Dubai. So we were in Dubai at the World Cup with shaking it up with the sheikhs.
So the sheikh had you to wear the dude? No, you all right?
Couldn't get anything to fit me. I was even thinner there. But it was a great experience. Actually, when we looked around, myself and Paul Murphy sort of went, should we really be here? But we were there.
That was a great achievement, Laurence.
The horse was just very good, and we were lucky to own him, but it was great fun. We actually did a couple of interviews with Radio Ulster, which we were just made fun of it. But no, it's just an interest. It's like all interest. Some people rally cars, and some people. I have no interest in. As you can see from my clothes, I'm not big into fashion.
I thought you were. You're looking very fashionable.
But it's like all things in life that you have to. I treat it like a wee business, but just by nature, I try to make it successful.
And do you only have one horse or a couple?
No, 8 at the moment.
So how does that all work? So say you, if you just came along and it was just a young horse, for anybody out there that wouldn't understand, so. You get the horse, you get it to the trainer, and at what age would it start to race?
What I do is I just get the trainer goes to the sales and buys on your behalf.
So
because you wouldn't. I don't have the ability to buy a horse. Say there, I want to recognise what abilities you have. So David goes to the sales and he'll buy a yearling or something, and then they're ready to run it too. So it's flat. My horses are on the flat, and then you can generally get 5 or 6 years out of them if they're good. If they're no good, you move them on.
Would you sell it?
You sell them on.
And has there been occasions of people that have sold on a horse, and next thing it's just went and won some big massive race?
That's not that many, to be fair, Paddy. Unless you're, it's really what I do is I try to buy them from a trainer in England that I believe is not that strong, and then we try to improve them, and that's what happened with Hitchens. We bought Hitchens from a trainer who wanted to sell him, and the owner wanted to sell him. Like, the trainer was reasonable, but he just happened to want. This owner wanted to win a Group 1, so we bought him at 40 grand. And he won 600,000. So
wow!
Yes, he won a prize money.
Well, that's a pretty good investment, Laurence.
But that's a good one. I'll not having time to bore you with the 10 bad ones.
I don't want to hear about the people don't want to hear about the bad ones. They want to hear about the good ones.
But overall, it's a kind of a break-even type business. It's a hobby, but a break-even business. Yeah, enjoyable.
And so like for now, Laurence, for other people, like you mentioned earlier on, fair play to you, about other entrepreneurs in the area. Would you have any advice for young people in the area that maybe are thinking of starting their business or have just started a business, or anybody out there in the world? Because at the end of the day, what we should have said earlier on was, you took a business from zero or naught, as people say, till over 100 million turnover. Amazing achievement, and well done for that there. Like, there's no hiding from that there. And I suppose, like a lot of things in life, you probably never have looked back to think, that was a pretty good move there. That was a good success. No, because people sometimes say to people that achieve things, they just plow on and they don't savor in the moment where other people would say you should savor in that moment there, you know, like your horses just won't stay drunk for a week, you know what I mean? I know, and I have to be on Monday there's a big meeting on. Do you know what I'm talking about here? You know, and like you should savor in it, and it's a great achievement. So what would you say to young people out there that's coming at starting off, Laurence, in this world now?
I suppose it's a very tricky one. That is something you get asked, or something that I think about a bit. I think the key thing is believe in yourself a bit. Anyway, you know, and that's what I'm talking about. Right back to Mrs. McKiernan. You have to have a certain belief that you can do, and if you can't do it, admit that too. You know, so look at what your strengths are is the first thing, and where your interests are. Because if you don't have a strength in it, and if you don't have an interest in it, you're better not going down that line. And the second thing then is, it's a simple one. Just you have to bloody work hard at everything. You do have to put in the hours. Like I did stand in that pharmacy from 8 in the morning to 7 at night, and when the doorbell rang at 8:30, I went down again, and even if it was for a hair dye, I opened.
I know.
Got it done.
Well, box of paracetamol there, please, Laurence. You know.
But there's no magic words I can give to anybody. You can go out and read all the books about all these different people that entrepreneurial. Locally, I think it's about, you know, get advice. Even if you're local and you want to come to me, I'll help you. We've started a new business just there recently, myself and Barry Grant, a young lad from Davidson here, accountant. It's sports recovery. We haven't launched it yet. It's been in a year in the planning, and Barry's working away in the background of it. I guarantee it'll be successful.
There you go.
I know it'll be successful.
That's amazing. and just there's one last wee thing I forgot to mention, Laurence. At the minute, I suppose, with COVID and all that there, I've never mentioned the word COVID on my podcast, but I will do because you're a pharmacist and you know about it. You actually, with a microbiologist in Dublin, are looking, it's another business you're looking at about where outbreaks of bugs and stuff would happen in hospitals.
It's hospital infection, hospital control area, just it was myself and Paul and Lynn McGrath. Now we've established a new company there in 2016. Obviously, with COVID coming along, you couldn't have been in a better area.
That's what I thought. Like, you know, did you hit the jackpot or just hit the wall flying? You know what it was?
I don't know how that one ended up. Somebody said I'm lucky if I fell into a bucket or whatever. You come out smelling of the other. But no, again, that was 2 years in the plan on that. But that was me actually, and Paul and Lynn will even say that was me going, no, we're not launching until we're ready. And she's very strong from a microbiology point of view, and she leads the company and makes it. And is that
something you picked up going on or listening to about what's going on in hospitals, or was it a conversation? You know, because you're a man who meet a lot of influential people, I suppose, all over the place now.
When I was 40, Paddy, I got bored with life in terms of pharmacy, and I decided, like you were saying about challenges, I went in and worked in the health service in Northern Ireland for thinking I was going to change the world or attempt to change the world bringing a business perspective to the health boards, and I stuck at it for 14 years, and I challenged a lot of people within it, but I didn't get anywhere.
But look, it's proven, Laurence, it needs to change now.
Oh, aye. No, there was a lot. I mean, you know, it's too laborious and it's too long-winded in making decisions. I would love to, as chairman of some of my committees, just actually get rid of the committee and bring one person with me and say, we're going to do that and let's move it on. But that's what you do in your own business. But you can't do it within the structures we have put in place in Northern Ireland.
Too many webs, Laurence. Too many webs.
A lot of different, and nobody definitively responsible. Everybody says, it's responsibility lies with the minister, responsibility lies with the board, the department. So
nothing ever changes if somebody doesn't put the sleeves up, Laurence, and do it. Isn't that right?
Aye, but it's going to take a lot, Paddy. And I genuinely, I was 40 at the time. I was fairly energetic and fairly up for it, and I did rattle a few cages, and I did help a lot. I did help a lot with making sure funding that whatever funding was directed into the Ulster area.
Yeah, that's good
from an equity point of view. And I took that sort of stance for a while, but there was some regional things that I got involved in that I found just too difficult to and I didn't understand it fully either. And they speak a different language, which there's no need for. They just get the language out of it. You know yourself.
Spit all jargon. It's all jargon. It's all blibberish. You know, sometimes you just need it. You know, this is the way it is. I know that because I would have a with the thing with the pancreas, and I would have a consultant, and he speaks. I've said it way back, and we like me and you chatting. He'll just speak ordinary, and he doesn't spend all these fancy words.
To be fair, it's not the clinical practice people that are using the jargon. It's the commissioners and the people.
Because it's good up there to do that, because they know that there's lots of cash for them, and they can keep.
I think it's, to be fair, there's a lot of good people work with them. But it's just they've got on. Once you go in there, you just institutionalise. I think's the word they used.
Straight-jacket effect. Shawshank. Or what do you call a great escape? You're shaking a wee bit of dust out, trying to get out of it.
How's you shaking here, boss?
I'm still shaking, boss. So, look, I picked up. You have a lot of drive and knowledge, and you've picked up lots of things over the years. So, if we rewind it back, Laurence, to when you were younger again, I know it's a sort of a strange one. Would you still be doing what you're doing, do you think?
Aye, totally. There was a song of, it was the Small Faces, I think it was Rod Stewart. Anyway, I wish I knew what I knew now when I was younger.
When I was younger.
I'm just glad I didn't. Because you're better just making it up as you go along, and you get to the point where you need to be.
Well, sometimes I'm sure you've felt this. I was asked once way back in the past life of doing the festival, Laurence, and radio, and this guy goes, you're making this up as you go along. Yeah. And I goes, well, see if I am. Nobody says I'm doing it wrong. So I think that sort of method is maybe for everyone out there.
I think going back, Paddy, that's and as you get older, you go back more, and everybody does that, and you'll find that you're not my age yet, but another 10 years or so, you'll be.
I'm going back now.
No, but you reminisce and you think about the way things were, and sometimes you over sentimentalise that, but it's what made you. It's what we are, and that growing up in there, Draperstown at that time, you went into Draperstown, you had shops like Murray Henry's, holy smoking Joe, that was a place to go in.
If you shop for everything.
Oh, you wanted a fishing rod, or if you...
It's amazing. And the school bag.
School bag, and then you had Fran Mullins, Felix Mullins, the people...
They used to fix the school bag. Lovely smell of leather.
Yeah. You would probably mind the picture house in Draperstown. I was just sort of caught the end of that one, but the picture house up in Herons.
You'll be real interested in Ollie's podcast, because he talks about it.
I think Ollie used to put on the
third reel.
He put on the third reel first sometimes just to wind up the people that were on the previous.
He was telling me, Laurence, that he was on there was a Western on, and he says it all set up. There was 2 reels, and next thing he says, I just put it on. I said, this is it now. I was sitting there, everything was good. And next thing you heard all these people bouncing the floor and all. And he says, James Cagney film come on, and there was a Western all this, and he says, I had to give everybody the money back.
There was funny. The other thing is in Draperstown when we were growing up, which is unusual now, there was 17 pubs in the town. We're down to 2 or 3.
I know, it's mad. And
the soccer thing we didn't mention, but just the pub league was something that's worth mentioning.
I'm just conscious of you. Right, we'll go. Just Laurence, on that point, you were a great lover. Draperstown Celtic, you played on all, and the back in the day, the pub league. Funny, what was your thinking back then, playing for Celtic, and was that something?
When I was young, we played football all the time, me and Danny Patsy. So, and if they wouldn't go out, I'd play on my own with football. I watched young Benny Hearn when he was growing up around the town, Brenton Hearn, and he was the only one I ever seen walking around with a ball every time I seen him. That was me when I was younger. I never said that to Brenton. He's turned into a very good footballer. But and I loved soccer. I loved the Gaelic. I was too light, and so I wasn't strong enough in the Gaelic. But I actually ended up winning championship medals in Gaelic.
There you go.
And a reserve championship, which I was very proud of. And but the soccer I just wanted to play, and we used to go past Ballycasty's field as was out the Tumber Road at that time. That's where the Draperstown Celtic played. We went down to Patrick and watched the matches. We'd get all excited. Paddy McLeod one time, I remember I ran and got the ball, and he tapped me in the head and said thank you very much. That was like a real, you felt that you were giving
He's the big boy.
He was the Derry City man. He was running the team at the back. He was tough. And then I started playing 80. Big Jody, God rest him, was a great character. Big Jody. My love of soccer and love of Draperstown Celtic came from Jody, to be fair. He was just a great character. So then I took over the team when I was 25 or so and ran it for 10 years.
You did all right.
Well, 6 or 7 years. We were quite successful. Rather than playing, I used to have boys on playing who weren't as good as me, and I was.
You're the man.
But I started that pub league. Believe it or not, I started that pub league on my own. And I refereed all the matches and played on it.
It was brilliant.
That was dangerous.
I think I played on your team.
It was a dangerous occupation. But it got to the stage where we had 14 teams.
Aye, but it got to the stage too. Did you feel, Laurence, that there were people landing with county players?
Oh, I know.
We
had to change the rules at that stage.
It got a wee bit.
Oh, aye.
Because the first one, there was guys standing with cans of beer and fags smoking aside. They're coming on playing.
I was refereeing McAllister's one Sunday, and I'll not name the fella, but he came running onto the pitch. He was sub, and he came on, and he was wobbling all over the place. So I went over to Davy Doyle, he was the captain. I said, "You guys, get that man off." And we was walked over to the character, and he says, "Look, just you can play the next match." You know, I was trying to be diplomatic. He says, "What's wrong with you, Laurence?" And I says, "Why?" He says, "It's a pub league." I thought, fair point.
Everybody half drunk,
but he was better going off. But it actually, looking back on it now, it was very, very funny.
Everybody enjoyed it. It was a great camaraderie, and it was great energy for the pubs. The pubs are all packed. You know, those who were playing, both teams. You know, I think the way it worked, you went to one pub, and then the next time you went to the other pub, and
it meant that there was a mixture of where people, as you know, within the parish are very parochial. So we're going up to play 6 towns, or playing 6 towns in the field, and then heading up to 6 towns to Shepherd's Head.
It's brilliant.
Bit of crack with Brenton Neely and Joe 90.
It was good, like.
It was fun, and trying to beat each other, like. You know, but it was very funny. There was one of the things that Mickey Lawless tells a story of the pub league. God rest Laurence Griggan. I always loved Laurence Griggan. Me and him always fell out every time we met in a bar, but we just carrying on, like. And the West, as they called themselves, carrying the money, even though they're out of Charlie's. They called them, you couldn't get the one unit would call themselves one unit, but this was the West.
The West Bank.
We called the West carrying the money. With the West were playing, and Laurence was coaching from along the side, and Pelly was playing John Scullion, and every time the ball went back to Pelly, he was playing the back. Laurence would shout, "Linger, Pelly, linger!" so Mickey Lawless' sister, Rory McCallion, says, "Linge, what would that? I've never heard that word before." Rory McCallion says, "I think it means to strike the ball with great force in a forward direction." So that's my story of the pub league.
Oh, brilliant.
It made me laugh always.
Oh, brilliant. Well, Laurence, you're a great guest.
Thank you.
I hope I've covered everything. I probably haven't, because you're a very successful man. There's probably stuff I left out. Thank you for coming on to the Small But Massive podcast. And as I say, once it's all done, I'll send it over to you, and I wish you well today with your horse.
Aye, that's
and
good.
Just don't be betting on it, people, because it will be a week late. And actually, we've got a tip for tomorrow at the Curragh, but it'll be too late for that too, Laurence.
That one should win, I hope. Anyway.
So we're not going to tell you the name of it, just in case you would, want to be putting any cash on when the thing's not on. But Laurence, thank you very much for coming. Thanks, Tierney. Thanks for Kaylin, Stella, and Nathan in the room. And
I just, for my point of view, Paddy, thank you for doing this. I think it's, I don't know if it's any value in the long run, but I do believe it's a value. The people that you've described, that you've spoke to, like Anne McAllister and Ollie, and that it's brilliant to capture that, and fair play to you for doing this, and I hope it works, and I hope in years to come, when we're all dead and buried, people sort of go, "Holy God, that was worth to put that down the record." I
thank you very much, Laurence. I suppose it's like anything, we're just trying to do our best to keep it going, and I'll probably chat to leading business members in the community to help me along with that down the line.
That's all right. No
so
problem.
give yourselves a round of applause, Laurence.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.